Hello everyone, this is ACHAA Akaya, and we are in round 2 action still here of the SC2 Armory versus Vile Gaming matchup. The two community sites facing off with their their 5 best players from each site facing off in rounds to see who can dominate the other. Right now, as far as round 1 goes, if you have not been keeping track, everybody from the Vile Gaming team except for KillerPlague was eliminated in round 1. And so far, KillerPlague has been able to take down both VGvSC2A and TexMix, which if you remember TexMix, he actually won the Wrath of the Xel'Naga tournament that was hosted on the SC2 Armory site. So he is actually a pretty good player. So going down to KillerPlague here, we'll see if KillerPlague can finish it off. He's got 2 more matchups to win in order to win the game. He would basically be all killing the SC2 Armory team as he was the only one that won in round 1. And then, of course, he pretty much has to take on the rest of the SC2 Armory team by himself in round 2. But he is spawning as the red Protoss in the top right here. And in the lower left here, we have Rodrigo, a.k.a. DeathCon5. And he is playing for the SC2 Armory site. So we are going to see another PvP matchup right now, and this map is Blistering Sands. And it looks like both players are opening up pretty standardly. We do see the first pylon and gateway coming out for DeathCon5 right now at the entrance to his base, and a very, very similar, at least my front door is awful TT. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but Rodrigo, aka DeathCon5, and KillerPlague opening up very, very similarly, both putting their first pylon and gateway out at their entrance and getting the gateway initially. And in the TexMix versus KillerPlague matchup, we did see very, very similar build orders opening up for about the first 3 minutes, maybe, I think it was, where they basically ended up splitting off after their Cybercore tech, where we saw TexMix typically go for the Citadel technology, whereas KillerPlague liked to go for the robotics facility technology. So we'll see. That seems to be a favorite build for KillerPlague. He likes to get up to that robotics technology pretty quickly, and then he usually goes for Immortals initially and then transitions into Colossi. So he has been actually doing a very, very standard build for the past few games that we've seen him in, and it looks like they are still staying very, very similar. Both players getting up their cybernetics core right now, and if we took a look at the income tab here, we can see that they're identical on the number of workers, and their income also is consequently identical as well, because they have the same amount of workers on their minerals and gas. So we are seeing a mirror game right now, but we'll be looking for some differentiations between the builds as soon as we get past the cybernetics core technology, and you can see even both players putting down their second gateway already here. So we'll see exactly what they branch off into, or if they go something different or separate once they get that cybercore, which it looks like both players just finishing up their cybercore right now. So we should see that variation coming up here very quickly. But it looks like Rodrigo, aka DeathCon5, still has his scout inside the base of KillerPlague, although there is one stalker coming out right now, which should be able to clean that up. Meanwhile, KillerPlague has moved their scouting probe out of the base of DeathCon5, so he is going to get his scout away, going to check out this Xel'Naga watchtower, try to get some eyes on a little bit more of the map. But it looks like DeathCon5 is going to lose his scouting probe here very soon if he's not careful, because that stalker coming out, of course, with the extra range, and it manages to take it down in the midst of his mineral line. So losing that scout early on could actually affect him, because, as I mentioned, they are both very, very similar in tech right now. So he has not really seen his enemy's true tech pattern as of yet, although the same does go for KillerPlague, because he walked his scout out of DeathCon5's base pretty early. He only saw up to the 2 gateways in the cybercore, and then he walked out, which both players right now are researching the warp gate technology, because once again, that is absolutely crucial if you're playing as Protoss. And it looks like DeathCon5 actually has his first tech switch up here. He's got robotics facility coming out right now, and the same going for KillerPlague. So both players are actually still doing very, very similar builds. You can see now, though, there is a slight difference in the harvester count. There are slightly more harvesters, about 4 more harvesters for KillerPlague than DeathCon5 at this point, and one of those harvesters, of course, is the scouting probe that was lost by DeathCon5, whereas KillerPlague was able to get his harvester out of DeathCon5's base and stop scouting. He did lose a little bit of scouting time with that, but he also kept his harvester alive, so that was definitely a small difference in their build so far. But other than that, it seems like they've been playing mirror builds right now. Taking a look at the unit composition for both players, we can even see that their army composition is very, very similar. Both of them have 3 zealots. The biggest discrepancy right now is that we see 3 stalkers, 4 KillerPlague here right now in only one stalker for DeathCon5, but the reason he's only got one stalker is because he did get an immortal out, and it looks like he has a second one coming out right now. Looking at the production menu, you can see that as of right now there are no immortals or anything building for KillerPlague. So despite having that robotics facility tech, he does not have any robotics units coming out as of yet, other than an observer, which that observer just now finishing. So he is going to have the scouting advantage and putting down a third gateway, it looks like. So going to be switching into a little bit more of production heavy, at least on the gateways, whereas right now there's only 2 gateways for DeathCon5. So it looks like he is going to have to move into the back of his base here to defend against this push coming up the ramp. Oh, and his Stalker's out of place there. The Zealot's getting caught up behind the force field here and not in good position to take on this Protoss army. Luckily for DeathCon5, though, he does have 2 Immortals in the mix, which Immortals are very strong against all the units that KillerPlague brought up against DeathCon5's base. So he is actually going to be in really good shape right now, winning that battle very decisively. And actually, KillerPlague has managed to get a proxy pylon by the right next to the Xel'Naga Watchtower on the right side of the map. So he will be able to warp units in using this proxy pylon right next to the base of DeathCon5. And we'll see if he tries to take advantage of that here shortly, although right now he is having to focus on building units in his base to defend. And it looks like DeathCon5 is going to respond by similarly attacking the destructible rocks in the back of his base. And KillerPlague moving into position right now. He's got another Immortal coming out to back up the one Immortal that is already out. It looks like they are going to be able to take down these destructible rocks, but I don't know if he's going to try to push in or not, because as of right now they are pretty evenly matched as far as unit composition. But oh, KillerPlague moving his units out of position. I was going to say I don't think he's going to try to push up as long as he doesn't have that high ground advantage. But KillerPlague moved his units out of position there, so he was able to move up there, apparently deciding that that was a bad idea. DeathCon5 is going to back out to the middle of the map, and you can see that the Observer just now leaving DeathCon5's base. So he is pretty aware of the tech that DeathCon5 has in his base right now, and you can see he has actually just started an expansion, although I don't think that KillerPlague spotted that yet, so he is not yet aware that that base is there. Yeah, as you can see, the Nexus is not visible on his mini-map, so he is unaware of the expansion that is going up right now, and it looks like he is starting to move out against DeathCon5. There is one Immortal queued up, but apparently he was supply blocked for a second there, just now getting in another pylon so that he can continue to warp units in, but bringing in a couple more Stalkers. We do see that he is sticking with the 3 gateway, which I've actually seen that pretty common. One of the builds that Protoss players like to do basically is 3 gateway with the robotics facility. But anyways, it looks like he is going to move in and try to take out this expansion before it's finished. Some reinforcements moving up right now, going to get caught up by DeathCon5's base. Oh, and he lets the Nexus finish. He's going to lose this Nexus, which is basically 400 minerals down the drain. So unfortunately for him, he is going to lose that expansion, which is going to hurt him pretty badly. Although I think he's got plenty of units to hold this off. He's got 4 Immortals in the mix, which is a huge amount of Immortals, especially going against this primarily gateway heavy army. There's a lot of gateway units in the mix here. So he's going to be able to hold this off without any real problems. But he did lose that Nexus out at his expansion, so keep in mind that that is a pretty heavy hit, because he actually let that finish warping in, and then it was consequently killed by KillerPlague. So basically that was a direct loss of 400 minerals for DeathCon5. So we'll see if he's able to stay in this game despite losing that advantage that he had of the expansion being up earlier. But looking back at the base of KillerPlague, there is an observer overhead, so he is aware of exactly how many infantry and army units that KillerPlague has in his army right now, and he is getting the robotics bay, which I think, yeah, he is now going to be able to see that as well. But it looks like DeathCon5 moving in right now, and he is actually in pretty good position to take on this army, getting himself all up on the high ground, and KillerPlague is going to GG. So DeathCon5 taking down this first game, he may be the saving grace for SC2 Armory in getting the win, the final win that is needed to take down Vile Gaming in this exhibition matchup between the 2 gaming sites. GG, we're going to move on to game number 2.